There is a specific type of person who still gives you their full attention when you are talking. Not the kind of attention that keeps one eye on a screen. The kind where they are actually looking at you, actually listening, actually there. Someone who knows what they think about something before they know what others think about it first. Someone who has declined to explain themselves when asked why they are not on Instagram. Not because they are hiding, not because they are afraid, but because the answer is longer than the question deserves. If you know someone like this, or if you are someone like this, there is more going on beneath the surface than most people realize. What the culture gets wrong. We live in a time when the average person spends over 2 hours a day on social media, when not having an account is treated as an eccentricity, a quirk to be explained, sometimes even a red flag. But researchers who have spent years studying this group have found something the rest of the culture has almost entirely missed. The people who quietly stepped away from social media or never joined at all are not missing something. In many cases, they are protecting something, and what they are protecting turns out to be one of the most valuable things a person can still have in this era. What the research actually shows. In 2018, a study published in the Journal of Social and Clinical Psychology ran a controlled experiment. Participants who limited social media use to 30 minutes a day reported significant reductions in loneliness and depression within just 3 weeks. 3 weeks, not years of therapy, not medication, not a major life change, 30 minutes a day. What the researchers found underneath that result was more interesting than the number itself. It was not that social media caused unhappiness directly. It was that it disrupted something the mind genuinely needs, that most of us have forgotten, even has a name: unstructured time. The kind of time where nothing is demanded of you, where no metric is being measured, where you are allowed to simply exist without performing your existence for anyone. How identity builds differently. Here is what the psychology actually shows. People who do not use social media tend to construct their identity differently. For most people today, identity is partly built outward, shaped by responses, refined by feedback, confirmed by the number of people who agreed with it. For people outside that system, identity tends to build inward, slower, quieter, with far less external reinforcement. Psychologist Turkle at MIT spent years studying how digital connection changes the self. What she found was that constant connectivity trains the mind to need validation, the way the body needs food, not as a luxury, as a requirement. People who never entered that system or left it early enough did not develop that particular hunger. And the absence of that hunger looks different from the outside than it feels from the inside. From the outside, it can look like coldness, or arrogance, or not caring what people think. From the inside, it feels like something else entirely. It feels like stability, the daily act of resistance. But here is what almost no one talks about. Not using social media in this era is not effortless. It is a daily act of resistance against a system that was engineered by some of the most talented behavioral psychologists in the world to be as compelling as possible. The variable reward loop, the endless scroll, the notification that arrives just often enough to keep you checking. These were not accidents. They were designed. And the people who walked away from that design, or never walked into it, are not people without desire. They are people who looked at what was being offered and decided the cost was too high. That decision takes something, not superiority, clarity. Researcher Jean Twenge has spent years tracking generational shifts in mental health. Her data shows a striking correlation as smartphone and social media use increased sharply after 2012. Rates of anxiety, depression, and loneliness increased sharply alongside it, especially in young people, especially in the heaviest users. The people who chose not to participate in that increase did not make that choice loudly. Most of them made it quietly, privately, with very little external support, because the culture around them was moving in the opposite direction. Fewer people known more completely. Here is the pattern that shows up in the research. People who do not use social media tend to have fewer but deeper relationships, not because they are antisocial, because they invested the time and attention that others distributed across hundreds of surface connections into a smaller number of people. Anthropologist Robin Dunbar's research suggests the human brain can maintain roughly 150 meaningful relationships, but most social media users carry hundreds or thousands of connections that carry almost none of the markers of real relationship. No shared history, no reciprocal vulnerability, no memory of what the other person looked like when they were going through something difficult. People outside that system tend to know fewer people and know them far more completely. There is also a particular kind of quiet that comes with this. Not the quiet of someone who has nothing to say, the quiet of someone who has decided not to say everything, who has learned the difference between a thought worth keeping and a thought worth sharing. Most people today have lost that distinction, not through weakness, through saturation. When every thought has a potential audience, the thinking itself begins to change. You begin composing, framing, editing before you have even finished, having the idea. People who do not live inside that system still think in private, still have opinions they have never shown anyone, not because they are hiding, but because not everything needs to be seen. So here is where all of this lands. If you are someone who stepped back from social media or never entered it, you have probably had to answer for that choice more times than felt fair. You have been told you are missing out, that you are hard to reach, that you must not care about staying connected. What the research says is something different. It says that you made a decision, consciously or not, to protect the quality of your attention, to keep your identity from being constructed by an algorithm, to know what you actually think before the feed tells you what to think. That is not a small thing. In a world that was designed to make that choice difficult, choosing it anyway, and quietly holding it, takes something most people have not been asked to name, but it has a name. It is called integrity of mind. Most people today move through the world with their attention divided between the moment they are in and the version of it they are about to post. You move through the world inside the moment itself, not curating it, not framing it, just living it. There will always be pressure to explain yourself, to justify the absence, to prove you are not simply behind. You do not owe anyone that explanation because the life being lived offline does not need to be defended to people who are only half inside their own. Mind Untold. If this video made you feel understood in a way you stopped expecting, this is your space. Mind Untold is for those who think differently and feel deeply. If this resonated, subscribe and stay, and share it with someone who's quietly been this way all along. They deserve to be seen.